Good morning, afternoon, or evening, ladies and gentlemen. Allincrypto here, and welcome back, guys, on this smashing Saturday for another daily cryptocurrency market update. If you are new around here, every single day at 1 p.m. UK time, we release an update just like this one to help you guys stay up to date with the latest and greatest things happening within the crypto space, but also the broader markets. And that is exactly what we're going to be doing in this video. In fact, this video is going to be quite a traditional market focused video. And we're going to be looking at a warning from Ray Dalio, the founder of Bridgewater. Ray Dalio is somebody who I deeply admire. And he recently appeared, I believe, on CNBC talking about the kind of inflection point with where we're at in regards to debt and the issuance of debt and the kind of debt death spiral that we may be at an inflection point of. So we're going to start the video off there. Why is this relevant to crypto? Well, we're going to be talking about it. If you look at why Bitcoin was created, and we played a clip from the author of the Bitcoin Standard yesterday talking about good money driving out bad money, i.e. Bitcoin driving out fiat. So we will be correlating it all together. We're going to be looking at a number of things, the warning from Ray Dalio itself. We're going to be looking at the issuance of debt. We're going to be looking at the reverse repo. And where this relates to us in regards to our thesis of the market is with the dollar. Okay, so we know that the dollar and risk is very correlated. When the dollar's strong, risk, crypto stocks, precious metals don't tend to do so well, and vice versa. And actually, you know, you guys will know that our kind of broader thesis is that we are in a bull run. We've stated that since the start of the year for the likes of Bitcoin. Altcoins now catching up. And ultimately, we don't think a crash happens until later on. And we've come to this conclusion from a number of different angles, looking at rates historically, looking at the market technically, and we are now starting to look at the dollar technically. We're going to be looking at it fundamentally with what Ray Dalio is talking and how this kind of aligns with our scenario of the dollar actually rolling over some more and going to the lower range of a channel that it's in. So we will be getting into that, and then we'll just finish things off with a little bit of crypto news, of course, fly by Bitcoin. We have been saying that Bitcoin has done a lot. It may need a bit of a rest. Altcoins are just going to get thrown around. Everyone has recency syndrome where they kind of forget just how volatile the altcoin markets are. It's just another day, another week in the crypto space. Generally, we do think that the broader market, the total market for the crypto space has broken out. So as always, we have a hell of a lot to get into. Let's talk about Ray Dalio's warning that the US is in an inflection point or at an inflection point concerning its national debt as it currently borrows more to cover its debt payments. Remember, we had a report from Moody's that came out lowering the United States credit rating. And then we're going to be looking at a number of other things like the reverse repo market, the Fed balance sheet, the debt markets, and of course, correlating that with the dollar. So without further ado, let's go ahead and play the clip of Ray Dalio's warning.
The longer term is that we are at a point in which we are borrowing money to pay debt service. And there is a process by which when you keep having debt growth faster than income growth, then that means that you have debt service encroaching on your spending. That's the same for the government as it is for us. And as that happens, and you want to keep spending at the same level, there is the need to get more and more into debt. And the way that works, it's like it accelerates. We are at the point of that acceleration, which creates the supply-demand problem. And it's made worse by the other issues that we're talking about. The internal political issue, the internal social conflict issue there is something that is affecting foreign demand for bonds. For about 40% of our debt is sold to foreigners. And so there is a concern of the American politics, of the controlling of this debt crisis, and these types of things. So we come back to the same basic question. How strong are we going to be? When we talk about strong, what I mean is also economically strong. And economically strong means financially strong. That means it's just a basic thing. Financially strong means, do you earn more than you spend? And do you have a good income statement as a country? Do we have a good income statement? And do we have a good balance sheet? More assets than we have liabilities. The worse that gets, the more we are going to have that long-term problem. And it's just, you can see it in the numbers. It's just a matter of numbers. We are near that inflection point.
Some words of warning there by Ray Dalio. Not just Ray Dalio. Stan Druckenmiller said a similar thing. You know, Moody's recently came out and sort of downgraded the United States. And this is really the state of play. So you've got this kind of food chain of markets, and what we look at with the crypto space is really right at the bottom. It's the kind of plankton within the food chain. It will move up undoubtedly, but right at the top of that, you've got the debt markets. More so probably than the currency markets, because of the fact that the debt is essentially what backs the currency and the management of that debt. And right now in the United States, they are issuing a shed load of debt. On top of that, they have high interest rates that are going to sort of turn over at some point and have to be renewed at this higher rate. And this is why we think markets do well up until we start to see a slowdown as a result of this. The general conception of interest rates is that markets don't do well under them. This is factually wrong. The markets, every single time there's been an interest rate hike, have ended up higher by the time they've stopped up in interest rates than where they were when they started them. And once they stop up in interest rates and interest rates go sideways, the markets historically over the past nearly 50 years have gone on and put in a new high. We think the exact same thing is going to happen with this market. And we're looking at it's a very interesting dynamic with what's going on with debt right now, because we are at that inflection point. March 2020 saw an unfathomable amount of money printed. And that money that's been printed has debt that backs it. They've upped interest rates that's going to slow everything down. We're at this point of a real debt spiral. And just to show you that, you can see an unprecedented $8.2 trillion of US government debt will be maturing in the next 12 months, or 1/3 of the total treasuries outstanding. That is a 3.5x more than what was issued so far this year. Keep in mind that the fiscal deficit next year would also require at least another $2 trillion in addition to the $8.2 trillion that's needed to be reissued. This is mental what's going on, and this is why this is one reason why we question the narrative of Satoshi so much, because he got things perfectly right in regards to creating Bitcoin and what was happening and still is happening and has really escalated since he created Bitcoin in the traditional markets. We know that Moody's also came out and re-rated the US based on the fiscal deficit, and another point Ray Dalio touched on, the social construct. Right now, the Treasury has been draining the reserve repo market. Remember when the debt ceiling was raised? Everyone was saying, oh, we're going to get a crash like we did previously. And we said, no, you are historically 100% not looking at things correctly. This is when we had the clog up in the reserve repo market previously, when it was literally at not even 100 billion. We were at 2.5 trillion. They have drained, what is this in terms of percentage? Nearly 63% of the Treasury this year alone to issue new debt. And what has debt done? If we look at TLT, debt has done this. Why is this an issue? And why is the continued issuing of debt and the spiral and the inflection point and that real taking off in terms of the long end of the curve an issue? Well, it's because debt backs everything. Debt is held by pensions. It's held by banks. It's the very thing that backs the fiat currency system. And we are in a spiral. And at what point... Remember the Fed, and this is the Fed balance sheet. I don't think there's any other people on crypto, sort of crypto YouTubers that cover all this stuff, but it's crucial to understanding the markets. At what point do the Fed step in? This is liabilities and capital on the Federal Reserve's balance sheet. You know, this is very correlated with markets, of course. This is this is gold. We don't want gold. And to suffice my ADHD, we're going to put this in a nice S&P red. You know, at what point do the Fed step in? It's my assessment that they're going to have to step in at some point, because you can't have debt continuing to devalue. And we've seen the willingness of the Fed to step in already with Silicon Valley Bank. We've seen the willingness with the UK government to step in with the gilt market. If this continues and this inflection point happens and debt continues to devalue, they're going to have to bring interest rates down. My issue is, and this is what you got to watch out for, is that there's likely going to be some sort of a crash in between a complete reverse and back to the printathon everything and that happening. I don't think it's going to be a soft landing, but we don't think that landing comes till 2025. When we look at all this and sort of correlate it together, let's talk about the dollar, okay? Because the dollar is the other side of Bitcoin. It's the other side of the S&P. We've shown the correlation. We have been speculating on this being an inflection point for the dollar going down and potentially the dollar being in a broader channel that's very roughly drawn here, guys. We'll put it on a monthly, actually, to make this a little bit more simple. You know, if the dollar's now going to venture down to this side, that's going to align with the continued printing of money and debt, basically, up until a point where you get a crash and it sees that strength again. You know, this is really what we're looking at. And this is going to be a risk-on period for Bitcoin, which we're already expecting, along with the stock market. You know, we're on the cusp of actual institutional adoption in regards to a lot of what we're seeing. We now got Fidelity seeking a green light for Ethereum ETF following BlackRock's filing. This is going to happen. You're going to get more and more altcoins that end up with ETFs. Institutional adoption we're on the precipice of it, and BlackRock really have kicked that off. Even if the SEC won't explicitly claim that Ethereum to be a commodity in the way that they do for Bitcoin, they have implicitly accepted its commodity status for years. Huge shout out to this individual. And you can see this here. Ethereum achieves commodity status, but the SEC won't admit it. So if Ethereum's a commodity, a lot of these other cryptos aren't. You know, that means there's no reason for them not to have ETFs and all these other things. Guys, we're in a flourishing market. The tricky part that we've got to try and work out is what happens with this debt market and thus what are the repercussions. Does it end up, a lot of this refinancing happen like I'm envisioning? It can't be paid. There's going to have to be bailouts, but crashes that happen into bailouts. Or does it sort of fix itself with interest rates coming down and they kind of slow things down? We'll see. My bet's on the more of a hard landing eventually. But the inevitability is with fiat systems is they are failing, right? There's no putting the genie back in the bottle, and this is really what the entire industry was born out of. And certainly when you talk about, you know, how it's evolved from Bitcoin into these sort of more broader operating systems, there's a lot to try and work out. But from what we're seeing, the markets look great, guys, and they really do. You know, we have said that Bitcoin, you should expect a little bit of a wind up here. It's done a lot. It's ran into its first little bit of volume. You know, things aren't just going to go up in a straight line. And when Bitcoin has a bit of a rest, so does the rest of the market. Actually, we're very grateful for it because it's essentially setting up what we've looked at. Our first head and shoulders target was hit on the other market cap. And once this gets going, so you may have a bit more of a pullback for the general market. Once this breaks, you're looking at a full-blown alt season and full send everything. So we've gone through a lot. I want to know your thoughts in the comment section. The debt markets are the ones to watch. There's a huge correlation with the issuance of debt and the Fed's balance sheet, and the likes of, you know, let's see if we can pull the Treasury. Yes, there we go. So you can see the correlation between debt and the inevitability of where we're in. The double-edged sword here is debt getting issued at a massive rate devalues things, but you know, what happens in regards to getting to that point? You know, we're kind of ending up in a hyperinflationary environment in the West, in the Western world. We see it across the board where Bitcoin's been a huge success. I really think that's all I've got for you guys. It's been quite an in-depth one, I guess, in regards to broader markets and something we've got to watch. We are at this inflection point. And yeah, we still maintain a very bullish stance on the markets. We think a crash, a shitstorm is coming. It's not going to be until later on, like historically has been the case, and we can see this fundamentally with a lagged effect from rates and so on and so forth. And, you know, what we've just spoken about is definitely something worth paying attention to. On that note, I'm going to love and leave you. If you've enjoyed the content, like is appreciated. So is a comment. Don't forget to come and check out allincrypto.com. Give me a follow over on Twitter @RealAllinCrypto, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next.